Hi, everybody, and welcome to another TNT. It's Tuesday, and the date is the 24th of January. Tim and
Nick.
dropping in. Firstly, just a very quick apology for our sound problems yesterday. We hope the sound is a little bit better today. Of course, we're always interested in your feedback, but try and keep it nice if you can. We are not sound experts. Well, I'm certainly not. And I just need to say that it's not necessarily a sound problem. It's to do with the software, it's to do with internet connections, it's to do with the connectivity between some of these machines. So we're just trying to obviously stabilize that. But in the meantime, hopefully you can hear us okay. Do you want to go test, 1, 2, 3?
Test 1, 2.
There you go.
I think I'm here.
So let's go into the news. Basically, the program is news first, then commentary. So if you just come for the news, just stick around for the first 15 minutes and then you can tune off. But for those people that want to discuss, want to share their thoughts, then you can stick around for the second half of the program. All right, Nick, let's go checking today's news. And we start with a BBC story that says COVID, Thailand tourism up, but still below pre-pandemic levels. And the story says that Thailand says tourist numbers jumped last year as coronavirus restrictions were eased. The Southeast Asian holiday destination saw 11.8 million tourists last year, up from the 400,000 the previous year. You'd certainly hope so. The Tourism Authority of Thailand also forecast that figures will more than double to 25 million this year. However, those figures are still much lower than the record 39.8 million. I was going to say, Nick, if people have comments, you can feed those comments through. Nick's here to go through your comments about any of the stories as I go through them, but we'll address those after we do the news. This is an interesting comment, Nick. It says that, well, firstly, the country is set to start charging overseas visitors 300 baht from the start of June. That's the tourist tax,
Yeah.
which they've been talking about for the past year. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to transpire, but they say it'll happen by June. But this next line, I think, is the one that. Oh, hello. Pressing all the buttons. Thailand's now got a target to increase tourist numbers to 80 million a year by 2027. Let me say that if they get 18 million tourists to Thailand, which is what, 10 million more than the actual population of Thailand, apart from I just don't see that happening, what do you think about us coping with the infrastructure?
I think we're not at any capacity to hold any of this when we really can't do it, especially now with Phuket, specifically with this shortage of employees. I can't see how we can cope with that in the near future.
Well, it's not just Phuket. I mean, as far as shortage of employees, it's Pattaya, Bangkok, all the hotels there are screaming for staff. Tourism attractions, a lot of them are still closed because they can't get the staff back to reopen them. Now, just speaking once again, because I was driving around Phuket yesterday, the roads were packed, and we've still got less than half the number of tourists we had back in 2019. So if we're then talking about 4 times the number of tourists, 80 million a year, I just don't think we've got anywhere near the infrastructure, airports, things for people to do, capacity on the public transport in Bangkok, the fact that there's almost zero public transport in places like Phuket. Are there enough BART buses in Pattaya? I think 80 million is just a pipe dream.
I think so as well.
And tell us what you think, and we'll address your comments after we go through the stories. Can't see my numbers. Here we go. On to the next one. The announcement also said that Thailand plans to upgrade tourism safety standards in order to accommodate the influx of tourists. Well, I don't think it's a matter of safety standards. It's a matter of actually getting the infrastructure there in the first place. And then halfway down there, like much of Southeast Asia, Thailand's expected to see a jump in tourist numbers from China, which dropped the strict border controls it put in place during the pandemic. And before the pandemic, China was Thailand's biggest source of tourists, with almost 11 million visitors in 2019. And this year, they're expecting at least 5 million Chinese tourists. And related to that story from the Bangkok Post, airport testing shows COVID numbers on arrival very low. There is, I suppose, a picture indicative that was taken yesterday by a Bangkok Post photographer, indicative of the problem. If we've only got 11 million tourists per year now, what are we going to have when we've got 80 million? I mean, that's the
Line for the taxis at Suvarnabhumi.
yeah, that's just the taxi queue.
Yeah.
So more taxis. Where are the taxis going to go? Are we going to have more roads? I just don't see it happening. But it said 5 international travellers who arrived in the kingdom in the past 2 weeks tested positive for COVID-19, while 300 to 400 departing travellers, including Thais, were infected. You might be wondering why so much disparity there. In the second week of this month, following the arrival of the first travellers from China on January the 9th, 3 foreign travellers were found to have COVID-19. Last week, another 2 infections, one of them from China, were discovered amongst international arrivals. And from January the 16th to the 21st, 627 people nationwide, or about 90 a day on average, were admitted to hospitals with COVID. In total, 44 people died from or as a result of the virus during this period. So I went to worldometers.com just to have a look at the chart. That chart, as you can see, goes from the middle of 2021 all the way through till now. In the circle there is the latest COVID numbers. You can see way, way, way down. There was a little bit of a surge in the middle of, or the start of the middle of November, but now it's down to quite low numbers, which of course are quite manageable. Meanwhile, the Department of Medical Sciences says that 300 to 400 people departing the country, including Thais, tested positive for COVID during the past 2 weeks. Only about 4% of them were from China. Their infections were confirmed, this is the important part, by the result of a pre-departure PCR test they underwent as part of the requirements for returning to or entering some countries such as China or India. So they're only doing random testing on the people that are coming in, but they are doing compulsory testing for people who have to have a PCR test to go back to their home country. So that's why so many more people were noted leaving the country with COVID compared to those coming in.
Yeah, and now is this random testing strictly random or a little bit more biased?
Well, we don't know, but still, if they only detected 5 people in 2 weeks, but 300 to 400 people leaving the country, you would have to say that there is a lot more people arriving with COVID-19. Not that that's a huge problem because, as we know, the latest infections are much less dangerous. And to that, the Bangkok Post story says that in Thailand, the dominant subvariant of the Omicron strain is the BA.2.75 with 86 to 87% prevalence. Did you come down with COVID?
No.
Not that you know of.
Not that I know of.
You could have been.
Yeah, I could have been. Maybe if
asymptomatic.
It was an asymptomatic thing.
Okay. Okay, so that's the latest on that one. We should also thank our sponsors. Thank you very much to 5 Star Marine, who will take you on a private tour out to any number of about 30 islands around Phuket and the beautiful beaches there.
And as well as the Stone Crab Pub in Rawai, where you can go down and listen to your favorite music and sports at the Stone Crab.
You might also see a bartender that you may know, you may recognize the face.
Yes, I work there weeknights.
What time do you get to bed?
Late.
And then you got to get up at 3 o'clock to make your way here.
Yes.
Like hell. Okay, so let's move on to our next story. This might be of interest. Also from the Bangkok Post story. I don't know if this is going to be of interest to anybody, but there is a vaccination centre at the Bang Rak Medical Centre. This service is available on a walk-in basis. The vaccination is free for Thais. Foreign nationals on holiday may choose between a Pfizer shot, which is 1,000 baht, or an AstraZeneca injection, that's 800 baht, plus a service fee of 380 baht for a nurse to stick it in your arm. And I'm thinking that if you are a foreigner and you've had previous free injections here for COVID-19, if you show that certificate, you'd probably get it free if you want a booster. Not saying that you have to get a booster for those people that are getting their fingers poised to write something poison to us, but that is the information for those people if they would like. Another story, by the way, of course, you can send in your comments and we'll get to those after we go through the news. From the Bangkok Post, survivor recalls horror of Korat van inferno that killed 11, including 2 kids. 11 people, including 2 children, burned to death in a passenger van in Korat, which is Nakhon Ratchasima, about a 3-hour drive northeast of Bangkok. The van carrying 12 people was travelling from northeastern Amnat Charon province to Bangkok when it veered off the highway in Nakhon Ratchasima. This happened on Saturday night, and a witness told AFP that one man had been able to climb out of a window, but the other passengers were trapped and died in the blaze. He said after the crash, the fire started engulfing the whole van, starting from the back. I started kicking the windows, managed to crawl through a small hole. Soon after, the van exploded. These van explosions, accidents, they're just way too common. If I'm thinking of taking a bus anywhere in Thailand, these stories come back and sort of haunt me because they don't have a really. I mean, there are thousands of buses and more than that passenger vans driving around Thailand's roads every day. But go on.
I think they're notorious for always speeding down roadways as well. Whenever I'm on the motorbike traveling, you see these Toyota commuters hauling down the main road and zigzagging in between traffic. It happens.
The passenger vans?
Yeah, passenger vans, yeah.
And they're all turbocharged.
Yeah, and they all have, it all sounds like they have a turbo installed for whatever reason.
Well, is it... Oh, well, that's interesting. Is it a real turbo?
No,
or
I think it's just...
You think it's a fake turbo?
I think it's just a fake... Why are you going to get a real turbo here?
Well, it can increase efficiency. They certainly sound like they got turbos.
They have like a small jet engine whir to them, some of them.
All right. So again, if you have any comments on the stories, which we're front-loading the program with all the news, you can send those comments in and we'll get to those. We'll read out any single relevant comment and everybody is welcome. Okay, to our next story. In poor air quality reported in 36 areas of Bangkok and suburbs yesterday, Thai PBS World reports that air quality in 36 areas of Bangkok yesterday is below the safety standard, with the amount of PM 2.5 dust exceeding the 50 micron standard, according to the Air for Thai Facebook page. And it's got a whole lot of regions that were in excess. But let's go to this picture. I think it tells the story. And there you go. It's all unhealthy. Down the bottom is it goes from good to hazardous. I've only known Bangkok to be hazardous once, Nick, but yesterday was very unhealthy.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to see it in the pink. By the way, that graph is from iqair.com. You can type in where you are from and it will show. So also of interest, this is up a bit further north. It's Chiang Mai, and usually a place for the burning season that starts to get very unhealthy, even very unhealthy air. But at the moment, it's only recording sort of moderate to unhealthy for sensitive groups. So that's the air quality map up in Chiang Mai. More interesting, I think, is this. This is a NASA fire map, which is also freely available on the internet. And Nick, we are right in the middle of what you could only describe as a hot zone. Go to this next one. This is a bit of a close-up. And you can see down there, look at the border with Cambodia. It looks like they're all got fires right on the border just to annoy people on the other side. And then up in the north, you've got all those fires in Myanmar. Then over here, we've got also fires in Laos. So no matter what legislation they might have in Thailand for controlling these fires, which are mostly plantation fires, they burn off the corn and the stuff rather than mowing it back into the ground. They burn it because it's cheaper to do that.
Yeah.
So you can see the fire map shows that a lot of the smoke is not necessarily coming from uh, Thailand. It's coming from outside Thailand. To our next story, and this one was reported by Manchesterworld.uk. It's also been reported in other British press. A British diving instructor found dead on Thailand's Koh Tao under mysterious circumstances. Are you aware, Nick, of the whole Koh Tao thing?
I'm not. Is this a Bermuda Triangle-esque location?
Not quite, but it's earned itself the nickname, as it shows there in the second part of the headline there. British diving instructor Neil Gibbon from Birmingham was found dead in Thailand's Koh Tao, also known as Death Island.
How did it gain that title?
Well, I'll cover that shortly, but it earned the title because of a string of mysterious, well, apparently mysterious events that happened to tourists, mostly tourists. A lot of people who were diving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's a long string. In fact, this article, I'll put a link in the description later, goes through all the allegedly mysterious deaths that happened on Koh Tao. And a story was published on a now defunct website called Samui Times, and it used the description of Death Island. And the governor of Suratani then decided he was going to sue the publication. So the editor of the publication, Sue Buchanan, fled the country, and she still remained outside the country. She's written a book about it.
Wow.
And yeah, so the reputation remains. Sue also remains outside of the country. Let's go into this story. A British man was found dead on Thailand's Koh Tao, notoriously known as Death Island, last week, and circumstances surrounding his death remain a mystery. The body of Neil Gibbon, who's 48 years old, was discovered in a rented bungalow in the small Paradise Island on Monday after he failed to turn up on a diving lesson. So it's not that he was
scuba diving during this accident.
Yeah, he actually sort of died in his room. 48 years old, far too young to die. Apparently healthy, but sounds like could have been a heart attack or anything. Described as fit and healthy, Neil from Birmingham is believed to have died from natural causes. According to a report by a national newspaper, there was no sign of a struggle leading to his death, and there was nothing to investigate, according to police. And then the newspaper says, however, Neil is said to be the fifth instructor to die in the past few years on the island, following a series of unexplained deaths and murders of backpackers and tourists, tainting its reputation.
Jeez.
A friend told the newspaper that Neil was found in his underwear on his sofa with a blanket on him. The friend added that medics who showed up said there was nothing suspicious. I was told, said the friend, the police said straight away there was nothing to investigate. It happened so quickly. I don't even think they did an autopsy. I talked to Neil about some of the deaths that happened here. So that story then goes on. Here we go. According to news portal The Tiger, Koh Tao was given the nickname Death Island after a series of mysterious or suspicious foreigner deaths and disappearances on the well-known backpacker hotspot. So that story, and I will put a link in the description after the program to that full story that then goes through about 10 or so allegedly mysterious deaths.
Wow.
Now, some people have sort of jumped onto this almost in a sort of
bandwagon,
almost a conspiratorial sort of a sense, and have sort of linked these and said, but then again, if you've got a whole lot of people going diving on a holiday island, plenty of pubs, plenty of fun, then there's going to be a few mysterious happenings. But a lot of people saying that there's just too many of these to be a coincidence. So I'll leave that for you to decide, and I'll put a link to that full story in the description. Going on to our next story now, and he's a Bangkok cop who sells weed off duty. It's complicated. And this story reported by the Coconuts Bangkok, who take every opportunity they can to report about anything related to marijuana and its consumption and the growth of shops. It's been over 6 months, says coconuts.co, since Thailand decriminalised cannabis. New Bangkok dispensaries are opening every day. as more people get their hands in the business. And that Sutipon M. Bunsarad, who's a cop, a policeman, is now busting people by pot by day, over pot by day, and selling it to them by night. On duty, he says, I chase off people for smoking weed publicly. Off duty, I sell weed and have a good time. The 32-year-old Bangkok man says this coconuts.co story has been a police officer for 9 years, 7 spent guarding a royal residence, and the past 2 assigned to the Buparam police station just across the river from the old quarter in Tombri. Each day when M gets off duty, he heads northwest down the road to open his weed shop in Thailand. It's called Crazy Roll. And cops like him, says coconuts.co, were long known for stopping, searching, seizing and arresting people over weed. But that's changed after June the 9th, with few rules imposed. Police can no longer bust people for possession, but they can still take action if someone causes a nuisance in public or sells weed with a fake license. And the story goes on to say, a few months later, M and his friends set up the small shop tucked above a craft beer bar. Unlike other dispensaries, Crazy Roll feels like chilling in a friend's living room. Thanks to the bean bags and pillows lying around, his modest wooden bar countertop provides equipment like pipes and bongs, even a vaporizer for customers to smoke on site. And then the story says, which could be a no-no. And that's absolutely correct. These shops are not allowed to have people smoking weed on premises. So you should be aware that if you do go to a retail facility for this particular herb, that you'll have to leave and do it in the privacy of your own home. And doing it publicly is also recognised as a no-no. Huh. So that's all our stories today. So we move from the news section of the program into the commentary section. For those people that just want the news, you can now go about, heading to visit Mr. Crazy M and his shop, or doing whatever you'd like to do today. But now we're going to be doing the comments section. And this comments section is going to grow somewhat in the next couple of weeks when what are we going to introduce?
We're going to introduce a new talkback feature, such as one featured on the Howard Stern show.
Well, yes. Any radio show has been doing talkback for years. I used to work on talkback.
But I just appreciate Stern's work. But yes, you'll be able to call in and give us your 10 cents about all and any topics that we read about.
But be aware, we have our finger on the button, ready to dump trolls, and we'll ban people judiciously if they decide to troll us. But we want to do it because we want to try and provide you with the greatest opportunity to reach out and comment on the news in Thailand. Nick, let's go through some of the comments, both from today and also from yesterday. We had quite a few comments as well.
Well, let's start with...
They're on your phone.
Yes, sorry.
So this is, by the way, TNT, Nick and Tim, and it's Tuesday. Remembering we start off the show with all the main news stories for about 15 minutes. It's about 20 minutes. And then the second half of the program, we do commentary.
All right. From yesterday, Traveling Swede said, flew from Utapao to Phuket yesterday, spent a week on Koh Tao, Bangkok Airways. And Xylonza says, Tim, with regard to the Sex Workers Protection Bill, the tax take by the government will be substantial and should be invested in the welfare of the workers.
It's an interesting one because, if they do, I think this bill, which will regulate prostitution in Thailand, will not only recognise that it happens, but it will also protect the girls. And yes, there will be some additional taxes collected.
I think it's great. Rav says, hi Tim. Firstly, they legalized cannabis without giving it due consideration. And now this. Like it or not, legalizing prostitution will not sit well in Asian society, regardless of the reasons given by the various advocacy groups. It will only lead this industry to go further underground and hence more exploitation.
What do you think about that?
Well, I find that one a little bit strict and a little bit quick to the...
Pretty much around Asia, they're sort of quite conservative.
Well, of course, but everyone is known, and the entire world is known that Thailand has been notorious for its sex scene, or sex worker scene, I should say. But I don't think that the care and the new law will drive it further underground. I think that protection would only make it safer for both the customers and employees.
Precisely.
And I don't think it'll put it into any dark age by any means.
Yeah, I think regulating prostitution is something that a lot of countries has done, and it's all about protection and taxation. And I don't think there's any downside to a bill like this.
Of course.
And Asian societies just universally almost have quite a prostitution sort of scene, but some of them admit it more than others. Thailand, of course, goes about saying, "Oh no, there's no prostitution here." We talk about often the parade of policemen and tourist police who go to the hotspots like Bangla Road or Walking Street in Pattaya
Or Soy Cowboy.
Soy Cowboy in Bangkok. You know the ones in Bangkok very well. Another story, another day. So I'm painting a very bad picture of you, aren't I?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad. But they do these parades and they take photos and they sort of talk to a couple of the girls and they check out some of the establishments and they look at a bit of paperwork and they get to the end and all the media comes together. Well, we're glad to announce that we've found no
prostitution,
no sign whatsoever. And you just think, oh, really, what in earth are they smoking? Well, we know now. We know what they're smoking, apparently legally. So yeah, that's quite funny.
Barbells to Buddha's Fitness says, see that all the old hotspots in Pattaya, Phuket, and Bangkok are back and more packed than ever. So much for all the YouTube guys who say the pandemic and OnlyFans has forever changed the game. The days of bar girls are over. What they failed to realize is every one chick who did something like OnlyFans, there are 1,000 plus more sitting around in their family home in Isan dying to get back to work.
Interesting comment. And I was one of those YouTubers I think he was referring to that said things like OnlyFans and YouTube streaming during the pandemic did sort of change everything.
Yeah.
And okay, so I'm very happy that the bar scene has come back. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't, but I'm also saying that this OnlyFans thing I think has changed that dynamic. And that there would be a certain amount of girls and boys who would decide that doing something in the comfort and safety of their own home and earning some cash online might be safer than going and sitting in a bar late at night.
Of course.
Do you have any friends who have admitted to starting up an OnlyFans channel?
I have no friends who have admitted to starting an OnlyFans channel, but I think this whole connection with the bar scene apparently dying and OnlyFans taking over has to do with the correlation between younger people from my generation tending to be more introverted, and everything's done digitally now. They order food to their house because no one wants to go outside anymore. You talk to your friends online more than you do actually going outside. So I think it ties in with that. And so COVID has planted the seed for this more isolated lifestyle to bloom, which is how OnlyFans found its spot.
Also, I think that we can say that not all the bars are open. In fact, on the contrary, if you go to those hotspots, you will see a lot reopening quite fast, but there are still a lot of them closed. And I think once you sort of move out of the real hotspots in Bangla Road or Soy Cowboy or Soy Bukau, I think it's called, up in Pattaya, where I visited when I was up in Pattaya last time. So I think that it's the ones that are open are doing very well, but there are still, I don't know, maybe 50% of the bars that were open in 2019, just making that figure up out of nowhere, are probably still closed. So we'll just have to see how it goes, but thank you for your comment.
Speaking of that, Marcus the hippie in disguise says, adults should be able to do whatever they want as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, which is, just basic ground to earth knowledge, and I think that's a great point. With that, Nong Wusao also comments, when the pandemic was on, everyone came back to farming from Patong and Pattaya. So I believe that this was in relation to the fires that we were seeing up north and in Cambodia.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from earlier in the show? Did we?
Earlier in the show, Once again, the comment section are having their own conversation, but nothing too crazy. Joe Dirt says 20 million tourists a year is plenty. The rest are $0 and penniless types.
Alan 8505 says Thailand is like Victorian England, puritanical in public, anything goes in private. Yeah, look, I don't think it's quite like Victorian England. If you walk down some of these hotspots, it's all out for you on display. I mean, the girls sliding up and down those steel poles are really quite freely available for you to see, including the families walking down there with their kids and having to have some interesting questions when they get home. But yeah, I don't think it's quite like Victorian England. But yes, there is a sort of officially a we're lovely people and there's no prostitution here. But then again, they let these these red light areas operate freely, and the police, of course, taking a little bit of financial assistance on the side, allegedly, perhaps even in a brown paper bag.
Reg Dunlow, like the tire, also says, who is supposed to be protected with the proposed law? The girls working in the bar, where they can be bar fined, or the freelancers on the street?
I don't really have a comment about that. But I think at the end of the day, whether they're freelancers or whether they're bar girls, and we also note, we said yesterday, that not all bar girls are working in the sex work industry. So, but I think the legislation will cover both sides.
Maybe.
I'm trying to find our stream so I can contribute to looking through all the comments.
David Williams says, there are too many bars and so on in these tourist spots before the disruption anyway. Too much competition. This has sorted out the wheat from the chaff.
Well, that's a fair comment too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Scotty B donated $7 Canadian. Thank you, Scotty.
Well, thank you very much. Unexpected. Scotty D was in...
Scotty B.
B. Yeah. B. I think it's the same Scott, I'm pretty sure. I think he's the one from Chicago. I'm pretty sure you are the one from Chicago. I can't remember. Yes. Anyway, Scotty B, thank you very much. And I'm sorry, I think it's Scott D I've got him confused with. There's hundreds of you, so I apologize if I can't remember your personalities individually.
Wonderful dad joke. And for the donation, I'll read it out. Police arrested 2 kids yesterday. One was drinking battery acid and the other was eating fireworks. They charged one and let the other one off.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Yes, we get it. David Williams says there were too many bars and so on in these tourist... Did you?
Yeah, I just did that one.
Sorry, I'm on this screen. It's very small. I'm trying to get it onto a larger screen. Anyway, how are we going? Any more comments?
Chinky Bad Boy says, I've just logged on. Have we talked about the COVID numbers yet?
Yes, we did. The COVID numbers, that was a report from the Bangkok Post saying that there had been no obvious increase, and they were doing random testing of people coming into the country, and they detected 300 to 400, which seemed a sort of a fairly wide band, 300 to 400 people, because they do compulsory testing of people going back to countries that currently require a PCR test before they leave. So they got firm figures on those. Countries like India and China are amongst the countries that currently require a PCR test to go back to their countries. But they'd only noted over a 2-week period 5 cases of people coming in, but they're only checking people randomly. And we don't know how randomly. 1 in 100. You suggested they might have been targeting flights, but yeah, it seems that...
I think it's only natural.
Yeah.
As well as Scott D, the actual Scott D, says greetings from Chicago.
So he's Scott D. Sorry, I got you confused. But Scott D was in Bangkok a few weeks ago and visited his family and stuff, and he's back in
Chi-town.
Yeah, I'd say probably a not very warm Chicago. Be pretty cold there at the moment. Chicago's the one place in the world I was mugged. I've only been mugged once. It was in Chicago.
Oh, how lovely.
Mind you, I'd also put Chicago on my list of favorite cities in the world. I loved the place. The galleries, the museums, the Sears Tower and the view. Was also went sailing on Lake Michigan, Lake Michigan. And I've been to the other side of Lake Michigan, a nice part of the world up there, Scott D. And Scotty B, thank you very much for your very kind donation.
It's impressive that you put Chicago on your list of favorite cities.
Yes,
Wow.
because I found it. Apart from being mugged,
Yeah.
I did think it was really well laid out. It was quite spectacular. I was there at a good time of the year. Look, I've only been there once, and that was back in 1991. But Paris, I'd put up there. It's just
Really?
it's so French. I don't know. When you go up the Eiffel Tower, the views and the blue hue, and the food and the restaurants, and the fact that they don't understand a single word of my 7 years of French, I think it makes it quite endearing.
All right. Scott D also mentions just booked Chicago to Bangkok in July for a family of 4. First time in 30 years to travel to Thailand twice within the same calendar year. Excited.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nice.
Do you have a favorite place in the world?
Recently, I went to Rome, and I must say that Rome has really taken my heart. I was really charmed by that city, and I found the architecture very beautiful, and especially the Tivoli fountain, beautiful. I could just stare at it for hours. That really,
Do you throw money into that?
yeah, you do. You make a wish.
Make
I
a
think
wish.
You tap it on your no, you blow on it, kiss it, or whatever, and you throw it over your left shoulder, I believe.
I'm sort of seeing an Audrey Hepburn movie with Gregory Peck on a Vespa.
On a Vespa going through traffic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Roman Holiday, I think it was. Yeah.
Holiday in Rome.
I think it was called Roman Holiday.
I don't know.
But yeah, look, Rome is one of those places I haven't been to. I've driven from Paris down through Monte Carlo, but I didn't get to Italy. But Monaco, it's quite spectacular. Got family there. None of them of which got any money for me.
Okay. Interesting one in relation to the marijuana story. Lyric Poet mentions Category 2 narcotics include cocaine, opium, morphine, oxycodone, fentanyl, and codeine are also authorized for selling and use. Do you guys know anything about this? Well, I don't know about fentanyl. That's
available in Thailand?
Yeah.
I've not heard of things like OxyContin. What are some of the other? Fentanyl? No.
Yeah. Codeine, I think we do have codeine-based cough syrup here that you can get.
Oh, okay. Might be in a cough. So I know in my home country of the Commonwealth of Australia that you can get, in Australia it's called Panadine Fort, which is, I'm not saying that, I'm not promoting drugs here. It's got paracetamol and it's got codeine in it. If you've got like really bad muscle pain or bad pain generally, it's wonderful. It really, like toothaches and things, wisdom teeth.
Okay.
It is an astonishingly good drug. It apparently has some side effects of bunging you up and constipating you, and of course it's not recommended for long-term use. You cannot get anything like that in Thailand. Anything with a "ine" on the end, codeine, methadone, all those opium plant-based pain relief products you can't get in Thailand. You can under prescription, but I've never seen them available at the shop. You can get any antibiotic you want.
You can get 1,000 milligrams if you want.
Sure, but I don't think many of those are available in Thailand across the counter. What's your experience?
Well, I don't really have a huge experience with any of these things, thankfully. But in terms of, I don't really see any of these widely available and or for sale. But codeine, I believe there's codeine-based cough syrup you can get in some pharmacies. If not, pills with that.
Ooh, okay. I'm thinking not.
Well, usually,
I think codeine is like sort of on the banned list, or it's on the list of prescription only.
Yeah, well, prescription only. I have a bad headache.
Okay.
Exactly, that kind of prescription.
So, but you'd have to go to a doctor.
I've heard The
Okay.
grapevine. I've heard, according to rumors, that apparently some pharmacists are a little bit more uh, flexible than others.
Tim, how often do you water your bonsai tree? Are they referring to this bonsai tree? Uh, I've got some news for you. Never. I'll let you figure that one out. There isn't enough Dina the Diva. Is Dina the Diva around? Or Dusty? No.
No.
They seem to know when the program is on, or in the past when I used to record the program, and they don't show up. But I promise you at some stage we will get the cats. If I don't feed them before, then they'll hang around.
Oh.
And if we put some food up here, well, they'll be up on the table.
They'll also be adjusting the levels first.
They'll be
as well,
pressing
yeah.
their feet on buttons. You don't want to know about it. Okay, maybe a couple more comments,
a couple
and
more.
we'll.
So Bob asks, "What is yaba?" And
Yaba is
this little pill, and it's usually like an orange brownish tint in color, and very often taken in these cigarette cartridges with the plastic on them and melted underneath, and they use like a straw or a rolled up bill to suck up the fumes. It's very ghetto in nature.
that sounds like ice.
Like
Like crystal methamphetamine.
Yeah, it's similar. It's
Well,
similar.
yaba is
and it's the
just
pill,
the pill.
form. Yeah, and they smoke the pill sometimes. It's very intense.
You're very ghetto.
Very Thai prison-esque.
So you do appear to have quite good knowledge about this.
I wouldn't know what you... No. This is just from like stories from the Bangkok Hilton.
So yeah, it's methamphetamine pills, which are freely, well, not freely available, but they're quite easy to come across. They think they're quite popular with sort of blue collar workers and migrant workers for some reason. Not expensive, and of course they're mostly manufactured just over the border in the Shan region of Myanmar, the northwest, which is just a wild, completely out of control area. And they make their way over the Thai border to ports beyond, and most of them seem to get across despite the occasional confiscation of sometimes millions of these tablets.
Mm-hmm.
But there are tens of millions coming across the border every single day.
Yeah. Further on, William Hartz mentions Chicago is known for its architecture and mix of ethnic groups, beautiful in the summers. I've been to Chicago many times before because we've driven through it plenty of times, going coast to coast. But don't have a lot of things to say about it. They've got good deep dish, and the blues.
What's deep dish?
Deep dish pizza.
Oh,
The sauce is on the top and the cheese is on the bottom.
it's like a pizza pie.
It's thick, and it's great. And you got the Blues Brothers, but other than that, I don't really have a really big connection with it. So that's probably why I looked so confused and pained.
Which is your favorite US city?
U.S. city? Oh God, I have to choose.
Well, okay, you don't
I'd
like
say
Chicago much.
I'd say I find that I enjoy New York a lot, and yeah, okay, it's dumpy in some parts, but when it's good, it's good. And I like the energy. I like the rudeness. I like the
You like
nature
the
of it all.
rudeness?
Yeah.
Okay.
East Coast people got no time for.
Okay.
Got no time to mess around. Anyway, Scott D donated $10. Thank you, Scott.
Scott, thank you very much.
He mentions it's my 50th birthday, 20th year wedding anniversary, and 30th year anniversary of traveling to the kingdom to be celebrated with the second trip to Thailand in July.
July this year.
July, I believe this year.
Okay. Well, so Scott D, I missed you on your last trip, and obviously very busy down here, but this time maybe you can make your way to Phuket. We might even put you on a microphone if you're good. You'll have to be very, very good. We only put people on. We've got more microphones now. We're actually starting another program in the next couple of weeks, which will come out on Sundays, called Grumpy Old Men. You may not be surprised, but I'm going to be in that program. So anyway, you'll see some more things happening. I think technically we've been able to get from one end of the program to the other in fairly good shape. Hopefully you've been able to hear us much better. Mm-hmm. We haven't had people been commenting that they can hear. Yesterday, I acknowledged there are a lot of people that did make comments in the comment section. that we were having audio problems.
So about that, in the beginning, it might be just some trolls or whatever, or maybe some jokes. But well, there are only a few comments saying the sound is poor. But other than that, I have a couple saying, "Hear you loud and clear." So we must be doing something right.
Okay, for those people that make complaints, they're not all trolls.
Yeah.
Only some of them. I've deleted most of them.
Well, I'm just saying, if the comment section, it's kind of balanced almost.
Yeah.
Are both saying that we're quiet and both saying that we're all right. It might just come down to operator error.
And we acknowledge that neither of us are expert in. We've got quite a few new toys. The problems we had yesterday weren't about the audio sort of so much. It was about the software, the connections. It looks like we had a dodgy wire.
Yeah, you can't see it, but we have a million wires running over just yonder.
We can show them. There we go. There's all the wires and the things. We've got another machine over there. So, yes, that was the problem yesterday. I think I've got that set up properly. There we go. All right. So having said all that, thank you very much for joining us today. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Any final comments, or are people sort of getting bored and they're leaving already? So basically, just to recap, the show is cut into two sections. The first part is sort of front-loaded with all the main news, about 15 minutes, and then the rest of the show is dedicated to your comments and in the future, our new talkback format where we're going to be talking to you and we'll be telling you how you can do that in future episodes. And don't forget about our elephant auction. All these elephants, that's a keyring, by the way. It's fairly obvious. And there's some of the shirts that I paid for every single one of them, by the way, being repurposed by Seeds of Change, a charity that we're going to be auctioning all these elephants. We've got 30.
You're holding it like you're in the Temple of Doom.
There we go. And the camera's got amazing sense of focus from what there all the way to anyway. So we've got 31 or so elephants. One of them is just huge. And so we'll be auctioning those off. All the money going to Seeds of Change, which helps sort of mostly migrant women who sort of fall between the cracks and are given an opportunity to learn sewing skills and to make these really cool toy elephants. Thank you to our sponsor, 5 Star Marine, if you're heading out on a private tour to the islands. Stone Crab.
Oh, okay, well, I thought you were still going. Sorry, it's the different tones and the accents, and as well as the Stone Crab Pub in Rawai. Yeah, just on the road to Naiharn Beach. On Google Maps, it does say permanently closed. We're fixing that. It takes a couple hours for Google to catch up, but we are open. We are open for business. We have your live music. We have your live sports. Come on down. We have pool tables, everything. Sorry, no live music. I made a mistake.
Well, unless they can convince you to get your guitar out. Nick plays the guitar.
Yeah, I play guitar.
So if you go down there, order a really, really difficult drink just to embarrass him.
Yeah.
Has anybody come in and ordered something that you go, I've got no idea?
Not yet, and I hope it stays that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So great music, rock and roll mainly, and live sports. Come on down. We have pool tables and comfortable bar stools.
Comfortable bar stools.
Comfortable bar stools, ice cold beer with the little icicles on the top of the beer. It's great.
Okay. All right. So thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to you. We really appreciate you following us, your patience when we have some technical problems. They're not intentional, and we're not experts, but we're doing our best. And I think we got through, touch wood, today in one piece. See you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow.
And we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for dropping in on TNT.
Thank you.